Welcome to Gray Overload, and let's talk a little bit about Microsoft. And we're going to focus on Windows today because we have 25H2 coming out here in the next couple months, as it should be in the second half. I'm guessing around that October time frame again, like Microsoft normally does. And there's a couple requests I have that I like to see from Windows here. Now, first and foremost, we know Windows has been focusing a lot on AI. They have the recall stuff, which I think is just not something, not a feature that should really be a focus. It should be, if Microsoft wants it, sure, put it in there. I don't know how many people are going to use it. I think it has to be opt-in. And, I have people asking me, I've heard about this recall feature. Is it on my computer, right? Can you help me check to make sure it's turned off, right? So there's been a lot of that. What I would like to see out of Windows first and foremost, and I want to be very selfish here to start with, and I think a lot of gamers would be this way too, is make sure that the best performing Windows, which Microsoft has came out, we've talked about these blog posts before, that this is the best performance of Windows out there. I don't know if Microsoft will be able to pull it off, but make sure that it's better performing than Windows 10 when you're playing game, with all the security features on it, with all that benefit of security out there, right? And trying to protect you. Make sure that with all that turned on, with all the defaults, that it is a better gaming experience than with Windows 10. And make sure that when you're doing it, these CPUs, be committed to making sure that all CPUs that are tested that are coming out will have patches either before release or right at release, that they will have the performance that they need, so we don't go through any of the Zen stuff that we found out, which also had some performance hits on Intel. Now, we've heard with the ROG Ally, right, Xbox One, that they've done some things to help improve that performance. Well, that needs to be rolled up into Windows. Me personally, I'm going to be selfish here. I want to see a gaming mode. I want to be able to get into that gaming mode. A lot of my other stuff is either, put in the background, which they have a lot of this background stuff already enabled and already set up. So this should be an easy task for them. Easy is relative, right? I write software for a living, so I understand how easy it is. But I'm thinking about it as, hey, we got this stuff. We're going into a game. We're going to have stuff minimized. Let's say somebody has a secondary screen. We're going to run that in a set interval. If they click on it, that's when the interval is going to start, and that's when it's going to need resources. It may be a little delayed, but I think if you get the gaming experience, the best experience when somebody's playing a game, and when they hop off, jump into it, a lot of the stuff when people are playing a game, I don't need updated. Right, when I'm going to that other window or tab or whatever else outside of the game to check something, that's when I need it to update and load. Before that point, I don't need anything running in the background. I want all my computer components that I bought and paid for to run that game at the best quality, the best frame rates that it's possibly capable of doing for the settings that I've selected. And it doesn't have to go run Windows for some odd reason, because that's what Microsoft decided to do at that time. So there's my little selfishness here on the gaming side, because I think that is quite important. One I'd also like to see is improvements to make the start menu work. Search needs a lot of improvements in there. Now maybe Microsoft's going to use some AI or whatever else, but what it needs to be is that when I open up and I start typing something in there, it has to find programs, even if it's just a setting saying, hey, what would you like to default to? A lot of times when I'm hitting the start menu, I'm opening up a program, not looking for files or anything else. I want programs to pop up first, any exe that in there, and granted, not all the programs I have are installed, so some of them are in certain folders I have on my system where I keep tools that I just unzip, so I can easily keep a version that I want without having to install them, synced across multiple computers. That's how I kind of do this, and I want that to be able to search through there and find those first. And I shouldn't have to just always type out the full exe. Or .exe, right? I should be able to go through and type in part of the executable, and that should be able to be recognized and then open it up. Now these are creature comforts for me, but it's going to help me get more stuff done on my computer. It's one reason why I do like going to Linux sometimes, because some of that stuff where you have programs or somebody written it up works a lot better than what Windows is capable of doing. Now, stability. I want drivers and stability to improve overall with Windows 25H2. Now, you'd be like, well, there's a lot of third parties there. Well, Microsoft kind of controls a lot of this and what some of the tools are. Now, we've talked about some of the stuff that Microsoft's doing, some static analysis stuff that they're going to require and something like that. But if they can improve and help it out and give more feedback of what's actually going wrong, maybe that will actually help on making and preventing computers from having issues. Now, maybe this driver store Windows Update needs to improve and making sure that those devices that have updates get it, because there was a scenario here and I was helping out a friend with their computers that for one of his workers that he has, and it was crashing a lot. Now I was able to reproduce that once, and then did some things, helped fix it because I wanted to replicate, and I couldn't replicate again. Now, does that mean it's gone? I don't know for sure, but so far they've had it for a few weeks, a month, over a month now, with no issues. So hopefully that stays that way. But what I want to see from Microsoft is, hey, this PC's been having an issue, and you can tell that. And Microsoft needs to make sure, are these the drivers that need to be in relationship with, or is there a driver table? And they could actually keep track of a lot of this data and with the driver, especially with they have diagnostic stuff. So why aren't you doing this? And building up that database, saying, hey, maybe it's a chipset with this graphics driver cannot work together. We need to make sure that this is updated in the next Windows update if the user has not already updated it, right? We want to make sure first the user, if they're using it directly from AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, etc., they get those drivers first. Then we just keep it there and we see if there's any of these repeat issues. Other than that, we need to make sure that this is rock solid and help the user out by pushing that through Windows updates. I think that you can get Windows Update to be that smart. Microsoft has a lot of other things out there, that they've done to like push to your computer, especially if you have a certain motherboard, right? You all of a sudden seeing, let's say, for example, Asus Armory Crate in the updates from the BIOS saying, "Hey, do you want this?" Right? So there's a lot of technology that they have there where it may not be the easiest in the world, but to take that data back and make the Windows more stable, I think would be a lot better. And I also like to see them take a little step back on all this. Hey, you already opt in, you have to opt out. Let's go to more of an opt-in stance. They're doing that with recall. Hopefully it stays that way, but let's improve it there. And since I'm on something, I think I want to see a lot more effort put into ARM as well. So I think eventually NVIDIA and Qualcomm, and I think even AMD will have an ARM CPU besides just x86, and I'm okay with that. I think that there is a place for devices like this. I also think x86 is going to be around for a while longer as well, right? There's a lot of support there, and there's a lot of improvements on the x86 side. But what needs to happen is that there needs to be an effort here to be on parity, to not have the issues that it is coming with. Microsoft's releasing devices that are just ARM based in certain categories. Well, I guess they have x86, but the initial release, hey, it's a Copilot plus PC is, that's starting with ARM. And these are areas where Microsoft just needs to be like, you know what, we need to get this right. This is another update there, because I think what they're actually doing is hurting the ARM on Windows overall by not putting a lot of focus into it. At least how I'm seeing is not a lot of focus, right? If NVIDIA gets out there and let's say I have a hunch that what NVIDIA will start with is Linux first and really put it to AI use. But if Microsoft really wants ARM on Windows to take off, and you have NVIDIA and people buy that and cannot reliably play games, that would be, I mean, NVIDIA would not like that at all, but I think Microsoft would kind of be like, ooh, we got a gaming chip, we can get this on ARM and maybe push that. That would be a huge devastating factor for Windows on ARM, in my opinion. So we'll see. I mean, reliability wise, right? A lot of people get the x86 stuff and it works, right? Especially on an APU. A lot of the APU stuff now is a lot more rock solid. You get a lot of performance out of it. Do you need much more than that? Do you need the dedicated graphics card in the mobile system? It's desktop's a little bit different, but on the mobile system where you have more constraints, power, etc., battery life, do you need that? So these are some of the things that have been going through my head, what I want for Windows here. I like more of the privacy side things. I like Microsoft to go and be more privacy focused, but they keep saying that they're security focused. However, I just don't believe that. When you have things like recall and you aren't in an opt-in mode and everything, that shows me that you're not really privacy focused. Now, if you're really serious about that, let's go through it and let's make sure that you are being privacy focused and give that to the user so that's what they can replicate and opt into things that they want or they don't want, right? There is Chris Titus Tex has a great tool, and I'm blanking on the tool. What is it, like WinUtils, I think. But where you kind of get Windows into a state where it actually works. Maybe Microsoft have that basic setup. All the add-ons and everything else is just a way for you to make money. You own all this stuff. Use different avenues for that. You have an opportunity here with, some of the Xbox stuff, the Windows Store stuff, the, you know, your own web pages and browsers and stuff like that to kind of push your narrative, but don't push it inside of Windows. Make Windows that OS, and that when I think of an OS, right, I think of it as the object that is running all the applications, all the programs, being able to be that translation between software and hardware, getting it to run, organize, and everything else. Let's focus on that scheduler. Let's make sure that's rock solid. Let's make sure that this is an OS, and then everything else on top. You even could have add-on packs in the store saying, hey, you want a basic add-on pack for some of these games we suggest, some of these little add-ons, advertisements there. You put that, as much as I don't like it, I'll compromise with you, Microsoft. If you want something like this, you still charge for Windows for the most part. Well, you do, right? Everyone's got to pay for it in some form or fashion, either through the device they buy, or if I buy download Windows, they always ask me for a key, so I have to enter one. But you have a pop-up, kind of next to where the taskbar is that shows, hey, do you want to try these things? Put that on the Windows Store so when they click on it, they can install it. I don't like having to go through and uninstall a whole bunch of junk that is not needed on my PCs every single time I get it, right? It's useless. People find it annoying, and people, well, I don't know if Microsoft actually goes out and talks to people that help other people with PCs, or if they're just doing blind studies with with no one. I have a feeling it's with no one, because or they're asking really bad questions if they're having a get together, because I'm more than willing to sit down with somebody and tell them exactly what I'm hearing. For people I help with, I sit down with them, make sure that their computers are working well, fixing them. But they always ask me, why is this there? And a lot of times I'm going, well, it's a Microsoft thing. I wish I knew why they put some of these add-ons on. And they're just like, well, I don't want it. Like a lot of the widget stuff, especially where it was next to the clock in Windows 10 and in early Windows 11, right? Before they got the widgets. And even with the widgets, right? People, were highlighting over there, like, why is this popping up? So you turn it off, after that came on, I remember a lot of people were saying, well, my computer feels a lot slower, and especially when they highlight over, that's why Microsoft had the update thing. Focus on performance, right? This is an OS. We want performance first. We want people to feel like, what, my computer is being an improvement. The features on top of it are, what I think would be pop-ups and stuff like that. So, I want to talk a little bit about Microsoft, and not be so bashing them in this one. I want to be like, hey, these are some things I want. You know, I want to be a little bit more positive here, because it's, with all the stuff Microsoft does, I'm sure that we can get another bashing video in down the line. But give some features for 25H2 that really make Windows something that can compete in against themselves, but more importantly, as Linux continues to gain traction, especially in the gaming realm. Let's say Steam is able to pull off and get something there. There's Bazite already there. Jay's 2 cents did run into an issue when he was doing his Linux on gaming, And this is a thing where, maybe you'll have another video of that being fixed, which I hope he does. But these are things like, as Linux becomes more and more mature in the consumer realm, right? It's very mature in the business realm because it's a lot cheaper, right? And it can do so much more, and it doesn't have all the overhead uh, that Windows has, right? You get more performance out of it because of that. Um, these are things that, as Microsoft is able to maybe see, hey, we do need to put focus in here. Maybe instead of just having AI write code, or just add on another AI feature or add another feature here and there, we're going to actually focus on like a kernel or performance or reliability and get this more rock solid overall. Because what I don't want to see either is in the life cycle for 25H2 to have where I have months of all of a sudden my computer's randomly rebooting or there's issues here. Let's focus on quality. Satya Nadella says that that's what he wants to do. Let's get that and let's make this a better product for gamers, for the people that use it on a daily basis, so that we can get the work done that we want to get done and say, you know what, for what Windows was in the past with Windows 11, at least now it's working quite well. And it's something where I don't get frustrated by just trying to use it. With that, let me know what your thoughts are of some of the things that you want to see in Windows 11, 25H2 in this next update. And, we can keep on talking about maybe Microsoft will actually give us some of those things. Maybe it's not 25H2, maybe it's Windows 12, 13, 14, 15, or 16. Who knows how long before we get some of the things that we want. Hopefully it's not never. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting Gray Overload and helping this channel grow. I really do appreciate all the viewers here. Thank you very much. Does mean a lot. And hopefully I'll be getting back to like 3 videos a week. We're finally drying out here a little bit. It's supposed to have some more rain, but I was able to get in the garden. If you guys didn't watch the last video, we had like between, nobody really knows how much because there wasn't, the rain gauges weren't really big enough for all the rain that we got. So we have at least 7.5 inches, and some places were like 14, they were saying around here. So someplace in between there. And well, my garden is finally starting to dry out, and hopefully I didn't lose too much, but I've been trying to get in there with tie boots and trying to manage stuff, but we'll see. Hopefully I can get some stuff done before the next patch of rain, which is supposed to be this weekend, happens. Thanks again, and until next time, God bless.